Ever wonder how people turn raggedy looking auction cars into serious cash? Well, I flip over 50 auction cars per year, and I'm just gonna let you know everything that you need to know if you want to do the same thing yourself, as well as mistakes you could avoid that could potentially lose you a lot of money. Let's get right into it. So first things first is just choosing exactly what auctions you're gonna be going to. And this is gonna apply to two different types of people. First of all, the people that don't have a dealer's license yet, and people that have a dealer's license. Now, if you don't have a dealer's license, it's not to say you're at a crazy disadvantage. There's still actually a good amount of options that you can choose from, and of course I started there as well myself before I got a dealer's license myself. The main ones that really stand out are things like Copart, IAA as well, and there's also small local public auctions that could be in your area. As a very quick summary of them, I would say you should only really choose things like Copart or IAA if you have a lot of mechanical knowledge. You can get great deals there, but you have to expect to put in a lot of work with those cars. I would say if you're not someone that's really mechanically inclined, I would say to start with public auctions that could be around your area instead. Now over to the dealer's license side, of course if you have access to a dealer's license, you have access to way more auctions on top of what I just listed. But I would just say the main ones to note generally are going to be Manheim, that's the biggest auction house in the United States, as well as Odessa, that also being one of the top ones up there. I would say my favorite one that I like to use the most is called ACV Auctions. They're actually an auction that only has their cars online. You can't even go in person to check them out, but they are really thorough with their online inspecting, and they show you just about everything you need to know about the car without having to go in person. So you could just be checking out the cars on your phone, bidding on them, and getting them transported to you without having to go anywhere. And now there's three things to really cover when it comes to the direct auction that you're going to be going to. First of all, it's going to be the research before going to the auction. Second thing is going to be inspecting the cars. And the third thing is going to be buying the car for the right price at the auction. Now when it comes to the research before the auction, there's really not too much to it. I would just say the one thing that you absolutely should do is just researching exactly what cars are going to be there at the auction. Generally speaking, there's usually going to be some type of online website or online app that you can check to see exactly what cars are going to be running through whatever lanes are going to be there at the auction. So if you can, just make some type of small watch list that you can actually have to check out when you're going to be there at the auction, so that you're not just at the auction just running all over the lanes, wasting so much time trying to check out every single car. Next thing, going on to inspecting the cars at the auction. This is one of the most important things to do along the whole process, and really with that is going to be a couple of things to note. And honestly, there's a lot to inspecting cars, so if you want to check out a full video where I cover that exact thing, you can click into the video on the top there. That's where I go a lot deeper into it, but I'll cover some of the main things that you should know about if you want to do just a quick inspection of the car. Now, just being realistic, just to have into your mind before you even show up to these auctions, most of these cars will generally have some type of thing to work on before it's actually ready for sale in the future. And of course, we're going to talk about getting that car for ready for sale and selling it in a little bit. But before we get to that, just make sure you're going to the auction with some type of way that you can actually take notes about each car you're going to be checking out, whether it be just a physical notepad or just taking notes on your phone. What you're generally going to start with the inspection is just going on a quick walk around the car, just seeing exactly what the condition of the car is like on the exterior as well as the interior. Generally speaking, you usually want to get the car to at least good condition when you're going to be selling it in the future. So note whatever you might have to do to the car for it to get into good condition if it's not already there. The next thing, and perhaps the biggest thing along the whole inspection, is also noting what the engine and the transmission condition is like of that car. And on that point, just so you know, people that are selling their cars through the auction are generally going to be very sketchy and do whatever it takes to make the sale of that car and get the most money for it. How do I know? Well, let me tell you. So this was about 5 to 6 years ago. I went to an auction that was around me. It was a dealer auction, and I checked out a good amount of different cars there. I didn't have a crazy amount of money to spend for a car at that time, probably only about $1,000 for it. And I ended up finding this one, which was a Chrysler Town and Country. Everything looked all good with the car, especially from the exterior. Even mechanically, it didn't look like it really needed much of any work, which was like, oh wow, this seems like an amazing deal as it is. So I ended up bidding on it, and I actually got the top bid for the car. I ended up winning it at around $1,300, somewhere around there. And then right after that, I mean, I was thinking everything was all great. I was excited to get the car home, put my plates on the car, started driving the car back home, and lo and behold, right before I ended up getting the car home, what do you know, the check engine light ended up popping up. Now of course at that point I was like, all right, well hopefully it's nothing crazy of why the check engine light even is on. Hopefully it's something simple like changing a spark plug or something like that. So I ended up checking to see exactly what the code was on for. I used my OBD scanner to scan it up, and then the code that came up was, I believe, a P0420, which basically linked to being a bad catalytic converter. And I don't know about in your area, but in my area in New York, these things are pretty expensive to repair to actually have a compliant one in this state. So that $1,000 car ended up needing potentially another $1,000 part just before I can sell it. And no, I basically ended up having to just break even on that car and just sell it back as it was. So that was completely a dud for a flip. So the main lesson that I got from that flip and that situation in itself, and that you can learn from too, is to make sure that not only do you bring an OBD scanner with you at all times when you're going to go to these auctions, but also to check to see the iron readiness status. And most scanners that you get will actually have this area as well inside of the scanner where you can check the iron readiness status, and then what it'll show you is if there's any monitors that's complete or incomplete. If it's an incomplete monitor, that would mean that a code could still potentially come up in the system, and it's a potential thing that the code was cleared in the system already. And the only way that you'd really be able to know if there was fully any codes on there or not is if you drove the car around and wait to see if there was some type of codes that would pop up. So don't make that mistake yourself. Make sure you check at the very least both of these areas to make sure that you're not getting scammed from someone that's just trying to get over on you with their car. Right after that, just going on to more of what the condition of the engine is like. What you can also do is just quickly try to rev up the engine a couple of times. You're mainly just going to be listening in the car just to see if there's either any knocking noises or ticking noises coming from inside the engine. After that, a quick check that you can do is just popping open the hood, checking under the engine cap and the dipstick, and just checking to see if there's any milky residue that you see. If there is milky residue there, that's generally going to be a concern for what could be a blown head gasket, which could be a very expensive repair for most cars. And then before you shut the hood, just quickly check around the engine bay just to see if there's any leaks that's coming from any part of the engine. Now for transmission testing, this one's a little bit trickier just because some auctions can be very annoying with it where they don't really want you to do a full test drive, especially with public auctions. Dealer auctions are a little bit easier with that, but public auctions, sometimes they really don't want you to move the car just about at all. But generally what you can at least do, especially if you go to public auctions, is just at least put the car into reverse and then put the car into drive and just make sure that you're not hearing any type of hard banging noises, or it's not jolting into each gear or anything like that, just to make sure that there's no immediate signs that you can see. Of course, if there's a dealer auction, if there's a different type of auction that you're going to that can allow a full test drive, that's the best thing that you can do. And if you can at least just go through the first couple of gears just to make sure everything shifts smoothly and it doesn't feel like it's slipping into any gear or banging into either gear, then you're generally going to be good. Now just talking about buying the car for the right price rather than potentially buying a money pit. So this part realistically is the number one most important part of the whole entire flipping process. Really, when you're flipping just about anything, including cars, the profit is made off of the purchase rather than the sale. So if you do this thing wrong, the whole process will be wrong. Now, some advice that you might see on the internet is to buy the car based off of what the trade-in value is that you might see on Kelley Blue Book, Carfax, other sites, whatever the case may be. I definitely would not advise to do that. Most of these values are completely made up values and they can really be wrong and throw off your whole process of flipping that car. The better way would be to just check to see exactly what that car sells for in your market. And one of the quickest ways that you can do that would be to just go onto Kelley Blue Book and just check to see exactly what that car will sell for in good condition. Then once you see what that average private party good condition value is on Kelley Blue Book, you're going to be taking that number of whatever you see that price is, subtracting how much profit you want to make off of the cars. And then you also want to take away any expenses that you're going to be having to put in to get the car ready for sale. So let's say whatever you have to do to fix the car, as well as any type of fees that's going to be with that auction as well. And make sure you're noting these fees, especially with places like Copart and IA. Those fees can be really expensive, so you need to make sure that you're accounting for that when you're buying a car. So let's say in that example, you saw a car that could sell for around $5,000. You wanted to make $2,000 from it, and then you had to put another $1,000 in expenses. So let's say that lowest number that you should be bidding at should be at most $2,000. And make sure above all else, you don't get into any bidding wars trying to bid for a car that you really shouldn't be trying to go for. All right, now with the most important part out of the way, the next part is just getting that car ready for sale. And generally speaking, you usually want to just start with the mechanical issues first, especially if there's any safety concerns with that specific car. On that point, if you don't have a lot of mechanical knowledge, I would just suggest going to YouTube to just search up how to fix whatever issues with that car. Most things you can generally find on YouTube nowadays, and at least just use that as a guide as you're fixing it. And if you're really unsure of especially like what's even going on with that car, car and you don't really know how to diagnose that problem, at the very least you can take it to a mechanic if you want to just get the car inspected and see exactly what's wrong with it, and you can go from there either to get it fixed from them or if you want to just fix it yourself. And as a quick note, you can basically expect to detail just about every car that you're going to be buying from the auction. Most of these cars are completely filthy cars. Some are exceptions where you don't have to do much of that either, but you have to understand that people will buy with their eyes. It's an emotional thing, so if people end up seeing your car and even if everything mechanically is all good but it looks nasty and it smells nasty, they're probably still going to pass on the car. Now in a second we're going to be getting into what you should be doing to sell that car, but before we get there, I did just want to mention, if you are someone that has never flipped a car before and you have no idea what to do, or you're even someone that's more advanced, you flipped cars before but you still want to make sure that you're doing the right steps along the way, I did actually put together a free checklist that you can download on your phone or you can print out and bring with you. It's going to highlight the main steps that you should be doing to flip whatever car, whether it be from the auction or even through private sale. It'll be a great guide for you as you're going to be going along flipping each car. To get access to it, just go to the link in the description below. And now on to selling the car. And one of the best places still that you can really use to list that car up to make the best profit off it would still be Facebook Marketplace. You could also use OfferUp, but really Facebook Marketplace is the main thing that people are on nowadays. And when you're listing it up, just to give it a greater chance to be able to sell a little bit quicker, I would usually suggest selling it for a little below that average Kelley Blue Book value. So let's say if the value is like $5,000 for what you see that middle average Kelley Blue Book value is, I would go a little below that. Along with that, you have to make sure that you're taking good pictures of that car. It has to be in good lighting, not really when the sun is just beating directly on the car, but maybe on a day where it's a little cloudy, or let's say in the sunset or in the sunrise, times like that, just to make sure that there aren't any harsh shadows on the car. And now when it comes time to selling that car as well and meeting up with someone, I do have to note that you have to protect yourself here as well, because buyers can also be very scummy people. And of course, I know about that from personal experience as well. This was also around a time years ago when I first started flipping cars. I was really just trying to flip these cars and I really didn't know exactly what I was doing. I was selling one particular car. I believe it was some type of Kia car, and everything looked good with the car. I mean, I got actually a lot of interest on it as well, and I posted it up for sale on Facebook. One person came to check it out. He seemed all good to buy it as well. He seemed like he was loving the car, and I believed it would be like a really quick sale too. Then it came time to just paying for the car, and he offered me to pay some of the money in cash and then pay the rest with Cash App. Now I did take most of the money with cash, so let's say if the car was $3,500, I believe I took around $3,000 with cash just to make sure. But the rest, I was like, you know what, I just want to sell this car, I just need to get this money in. I took the rest of the money, let's say the extra $500, with Cash App. So boom, I took the money in, deposited the cash into the account, everything was all good. Then I ended up getting a notification coming from Cash App saying that the money that I got was basically being flagged as a fraudulent transaction. So if you haven't put it together, the person that bought that car from me ended up putting in a report to Cash App to get that $500 back. And yes, they did actually get the money back. So I basically lost out on, let's say, $500 in that scenario. So to warn you from that, definitely don't take anything but cash. Even things like checks and stuff like that, that stuff could bounce. I really wouldn't trust it. And even if you do take cash, I would even be a little precautious with that and do things like checking the cash with the money checker, or you could even deposit it into your ATM just to make sure that the ATM can see that it's already real. And that's really the main parts of the whole process. I will say, if something ends up happening where you buy the wrong car and you make some type of mistakes along the way, don't beat yourself up. It's part of the game. As long as you're making and you're winning more than you're losing over time, you're still trending in the right direction. Don't end up giving up on yourself right when you make one mistake. And even worse, don't be that person that keeps putting off trying to flip a car just because you think you're gonna possibly make one mistake along the way. But that's everything. If you think I missed out on anything, or if you have any questions along the whole process, drop it in the comments below. Make sure you get the checklist to see the 13 steps that you have to follow along every single flip, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.